For Humankind, with Love. A Creationist Perspective on the Planetary Alignment of the Year 2000. Author, Paulo Luiz Franca, April 2024. Juazeiro, Bahia, and Petrolina, Pernambuco, Brazil.
Special dedication. This work is wholly dedicated to the brightest beacon of my life. Mommy, as I affectionately called her after she became the mother of 6 beautiful puppies, returned to her essence after 11 years of illuminating my existence. In my arms she surrendered her spirit and departed from this world, being welcomed by our Lord Jesus on Christmas Day of 2023, Monday, taking my whole heart with her. Since her passing, I have been devastated. In search of healing, I began to contemplate a unique and memorable way to celebrate and honor her noble life. The idea of creating this work emerged from these reflections and has now been realized. She is the inspiration and driving force behind this endeavor. Without her, it would not be. It is the ultimate tribute to ensure that her legacy lives on through time. Thus, this work must never be sold, for this legacy is invaluable. The purpose of this presentation is to brighten your life as Mommy brightened mine. The deeper you delve into its content, the more remarkable it will become. Let us see what happens when its inner light starts to shine. My dearest and most hallowed treasure now resides in heaven, preserved for all eternity. With all my love and the renewed hope for our everlasting reunion.
Sacred Scriptures. Ignorance of the Father brought about anguish and terror, and the anguish grew solid like a fog, so that no one was able to see. For this reason, error became powerful. The Gospel of Truth. At that time Jesus answered and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Matthew 11 verse 25, KJV. The stars shined in their watches, and rejoiced. When he calleth them, they say, Here we be, and so with cheerfulness they shewed light unto him that made them. Baruch 3:34, KJV.
Creationism. Creationism is the belief that the universe, earth, life, and humanity were created through specific acts of divine creation. This term typically refers to the doctrine that the universe and all living organisms originated in their current forms by an act of a divine being. It asserts that God created the universe and all life from nothing, ex nihilo. Therefore, anyone who subscribes to this view of creation is deemed a creationist. This belief often contrasts with scientific theories regarding the origins and evolution of natural phenomena. The ongoing debate between creationist and scientific theories has been a subject of intense discussion in the context of educational curricula. Despite the debates, creationist beliefs continue to be an important part of cultural and religious identity for many people around the world.
Personal testimony. My prayer and the ensuing events. 1 of 2. This account is credible. At the time of this event, the Internet did not exist in many regions of our country, including my hometown. Between February and April of 2000, I ascended to the rooftop terrace of our house, with 9 candles, a matchbox, a Holy Bible, and a prayer in my heart. The atmosphere was perfectly calm, completely still without any wind. My goal was to gain a divine understanding about the 7 planets as described in the texts of Josephus. Thus, I lit the candles and beseeched the Creator for enlightenment on the significance of the 7 menorah lamps in the biblical Tabernacle. This ritual was performed for 3 consecutive days. On the first night, upon lighting the final candle, a simple yet remarkable event occurred. I sensed the presence of a spiritual entity by the behavior of the candles. Specifically, right after the last candle was lit, a soft breeze briefly touched them, yet they did not extinguish, they merely bent slightly. I am persuaded that this ethereal being was there to convey my prayer to God, affirming that the subsequent events would not be a mere coincidence. Then, a strong, focused gust extinguished all the candles at once, solely affecting them. Despite being alone, fear did not take hold of me. Overwhelmed with reverence, I retired to bed as usual. Later, on a beautiful day, we received our usual weekly magazine subscription. Now, I will present a scanned image of it, along with a translation from Portuguese to English, focusing on the relevant section of the text.
Personal testimony. My prayer and the ensuing events. Translation. The Earth will change. On May 3rd, 7 stars will be grouped in Taurus. This will affect the economy and the human mind. On August 11th, 1999, 2 days before Friday the 13th, the world was shocked. On that date, the last solar eclipse of the millennium formed a kind of cosmic cross in the sky. This and other astrological evidence led millions of people to believe it was the end of days on Earth. Fortunately, we survived. But the phenomena that shook the planet and its inhabitants have not yet ended. On the 3rd, 4th and 5th of May, 7 luminaries, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Mars and Saturn, will be grouped in the sign of Taurus and will continue the celebration of the sky, which began with last year's eclipse. Isto A, May 3rd, 2000.
Personal testimony. Notes for clarification. 1. Altar of the open air. I went up to the highest spot in my home, the rooftop, to pray and light candles. I stayed outside the entire time, performing the whole ritual under the open sky instead of indoors. 2. Why were 9 candles used in the ritual instead of 7? I wanted to play it safe. 9 includes 7, but 7 doesn't include 9. In the year 2000, there were officially 9 recognized planets in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. In addition, there's the Hanukkah menorah, or Hanukkah, a special 9-branched candelabrum used during the 8-day Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. 3. This work is a Gnostic revelation I've held onto for over 2 decades since the event in 2000, first shared in April 2024 to honor Mommy's memory and legacy, and completed on March 27, 2026, 26 years later. 4. That day was the first time I ever lit candles to pray.
Fact. The Great Planetary Alignment of May 2000. On August 11, 1999, the world witnessed a startling event. On that date, the last solar eclipse of the millennium formed a cosmic cross in the sky. In the following year, 2000, on May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 7 celestial luminaries, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, aligned within the constellation of Taurus. That alignment received global attention due to its astronomical significance and rarity.
Classical planets of antiquity. 1 of 4. The classical planets, also known as the 7 luminaries, have been a cornerstone in the historical understanding of our cosmos. These celestial bodies, visible to the naked eye, were known to various ancient cultures. In antiquity, these heavenly bodies were not only astronomical objects but also held significant astrological and mythological importance. The Babylonians, for instance, named them after their gods, such as Shamash for the sun and Ishtar for Venus. The Greeks contributed to this legacy by naming the planets after their deities, which is reflected in the planetary names we use today. The movement of these planets against the backdrop of stars fascinated our ancestors and led to the development of complex calendars and navigation systems. The legacy of the classical planets endures in modern astronomy.
Classical planets of antiquity. 2 of 4. The concept of 7 planets originates from classical astronomy, which identified the 7 celestial bodies visible to the naked eye as planets. This group consisted of the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The classification was derived from the observation and tracking of their movements across the night sky.
The word planet is derived from the Greek term for wanderer, indicative of their apparent motion against the constellation of fixed stars. Historically, this notion of 7 planets has significantly impacted diverse cultures and belief systems. These celestial objects attracted special attention because, in contrast to the so-called fixed stars, they moved in varying directions and at varying speeds, both from one another and from the fixed stars beyond them.
Classical planets of antiquity. 3 of 4. Historically, the night sky was believed to be composed of 2 distinct types of celestial bodies. Fixed stars, which maintain their positions relative to one another, and wandering stars, which moved across the celestial sphere against the backdrop of the fixed stars. The Greeks named these moving stars planets, a term originating from a word that means wanderers, due to their unusual movement. The Babylonians named them after their main deities, and the Greeks assigned their divine equivalents to them. Consequently, Babylonian Nabu became Hermes, or as he is known to us in his Roman form, Mercury. Ishtar became Greek Aphrodite and Roman Venus. Nergal became Ares for the Greeks and Mars for the Romans and us. Marduk became Greek Zeus and Jupiter for the Romans. And in conclusion, Babylonian Ninib was called Kronos by the Greeks and Saturn by the Romans.
Classical planets of antiquity. 4. In numerous languages derived from Latin, the names of the days of the week originate from the 7 ancient planets: the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Traditionally, these celestial bodies are associated with the 7 archangels and the 7 heavens. Lastly, the concept of the 7 planets suggests that Earth is at the center of the universe.
The sacred space. Heaven is envisioned as the perfect place. It is the city of the gods. The aim of human existence is to establish a connection with this divine realm and ultimately return to partake in the life of the deities. The primary means by which the gods communicate the knowledge of this sacred space and the requisite information for entry to humans is via the temple. The terrestrial temple mirrors its celestial counterpart. The deity discloses the architectural blueprint of the earthly temple to the prophet, a reflection of the heavenly model. Exodus chapters 19 and 25 depict this archetypal scenario. The prophet ascends the mountain and is presented with a model to examine. This model is the temple, or in this instance, the tabernacle, which has its prototype in heaven. Make everything according to the pattern of the tabernacle and all its furnishings, as I will show you. Exodus 25 verse 9.
The biblical tabernacle. The Holy Scriptures indicate that the tabernacle was constructed following the divine design revealed to Moses on Mount Sinai, as described in the book of Exodus, specifically in chapters 25 to 31 and 35 to 40. The tabernacle is given more attention than any other topic throughout the Scriptures. It served as a movable sanctuary that symbolized God's presence among the Israelites during their journey through the wilderness and was the primary place of worship for the 12 tribes of Israel. Constructed nearly 3,500 years ago, the entire structure was completed within 7 months, designed for easy disassembly and transport during their desert wanderings. 440 years later, Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem was established, becoming the new focal point for worship. There are many references to the tabernacle in the Bible, both in the Old and New Testaments.
The structure of the tabernacle. Concise overview of its design. The outer court. Entrance. Situated on the eastern side. Bronze altar. Used for the sacrifice of animals. Bronze laver. A place for priests to conduct ceremonial cleansing. The tabernacle tent. Divisions. The tent was split into 2 primary areas. Holy place. Held the table of showbread, a golden lampstand, and the altar for burning incense. Holy of Holies. Most holy place contained the Ark of the Covenant, housing the 10 Commandments, a golden box filled with manna, and Aaron's rod. It was separated from the holy place by a curtain.
The seven-branched menorah. The term menorah refers to a candelabrum, lampstand, or candlestick. While most English Bible translations opt for lampstand, the King James Version, employed in this work, renders the Hebrew term as candlestick. Within the tent, in that particular section, stood a menorah with 7 branches that cast light upon the area, alongside a table set with 12 loaves of bread. This sacred space was accessible only to priests. The lampstand, crafted from pure gold, was lit exclusively with fresh olive oil.
Exodus 25 verses 31 to 40, KJV. 1 of 2. 31 And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops and his flowers shall be of the same. 32 And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 33 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knop and a flower, so in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. 34 And in the candlesticks shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers. 35 And there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick.
Exodus 25 verses 31 to 40, KJV. 2. 36 Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. 37 And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. 38 And the tongs thereof, and the snuff dishes thereof, shall be of pure gold. 39 Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it, with all these vessels. 40 And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was shewed thee in the mount. Thus did Moses, according to all that the Lord commanded him, so did he. Exodus 40 verse 16, KJV.
Zechariah 4 verses 1 to 5, KJV. 1 And the angel that talked with me came again, and waked me as a man that is wakened out of his sleep. 2 And said unto me, What sayest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold, a candlestick all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and his 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes to the 7 lamps, which are upon the top thereof. 3 And 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side thereof. For so I answered and spake to the angel that talked with me, saying, What are these, my Lord? 5 Then the angel that talked with me answered, and said unto me, Knowest thou not what these be? And I said, No, my Lord. In verse 10 the angel says, For who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice, and shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7. They are the eyes of the Lord, which run to and fro through the whole earth.
Flavius Josephus, Philo of Alexandria, Clement of Alexandria, their works.
Flavius Josephus. Flavius Josephus, a 1st century AD Israelite historian, is famed for his detailed accounts of his people's history and culture. His autobiography is particularly significant for detailing his role in the Jewish revolt against Rome, which culminated in the fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of Solomon's temple. Celebrated for his literary works, especially Jewish antiquities, Josephus provides a chronicle of the ancient Israelites' history from the creation of the world up to his own time. His writings are invaluable for understanding the Israelites' history and traditions. His 2 most important works are The War of the Jews, c. 75, and Jewish Antiquities, c. 94. The first is a primary source for the study of the Jewish revolt against Rome, 66 to 70, while the second tells the history of the world from an Israelite perspective.
The Seven Planets in Josephus' Works, 1. Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3, Chapter 6, Section 7, William Whiston. Over against this table, near the southern wall, was set a candlestick of cast gold, hollow within, being of the weight of 100 pounds, which the Hebrews call chinchairs. It was made with its knops and lilies and pomegranates and bowls, which ornaments amounted to 70 in all, by which means the shaft elevated itself on high from a single base, and spread itself into as many branches as there are planets, including the sun among them. It terminated in 7 heads in one row, all standing parallel to one another, and these branches carried 7 lamps, one by one, in imitation of the number of the planets. These lamps looked to the east and to the south, the candlestick being situated obliquely.
The Seven Planets in Josephus' Works, 2. Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3, Chapter 7, Section 7, William Whiston. For if any one do, but consider the fabric of the tabernacle, and take a view of the garments of the high priest, and of those vessels which we make use of in our sacred ministration, for if any one do without prejudice, and with judgment, look upon these things, he will find they were every one made in way of imitation and representation of the universe. By branching out the candlestick into 70 parts, he secretly intimated the decani, or 70 divisions of the planets. And as to the 7 lamps upon the candlesticks, they refer to the course of the planets, of which that is the number.
The Seven Planets in Josephus' Works, 3. The Wars of the Jews, or the History of the Destruction of Jerusalem. Book 5, Chapter 5, Section 5, William Whiston. When any persons entered into the temple, its floor received them. This part of the temple, therefore, was in height 60 cubits, and its length the same. The first part of it was cut off at 40 cubits, and had in it 3 things that were very wonderful and famous among all mankind: the candlestick, the table of shewbread, and the altar of incense. Now the 7 lamps signified the 7 planets, for so many there were springing out of the candlestick.
Philo of Alexandria. Philo of Alexandria, also known as Philo Judaeus, was a Jewish Hellenistic philosopher who lived in Alexandria, Egypt, during the 1st century Hellenistic period. He authored numerous works on philosophy and history. Philo holds a distinctive place in philosophical history as the first to attempt a synthesis of revealed faith with philosophical reasoning. Christians regard him as a precursor to Christian theology. His writings primarily offer allegorical interpretations of the Torah, known to the Hellenistic world as the Pentateuch, and include historical accounts and philosophical commentaries. Philo merged Greek philosophical thought with Jewish traditions, interpreting the biblical text through the lenses of Platonic, Aristotelian, Stoic, and skeptical philosophies. Philo frequently supported a literal interpretation of the Torah and the historical accuracy of the events it describes, yet he also embraced allegorical interpretations at times.
The Seven Planets in Philo's Works, 1. Philo of Alexandria. The Life of Moses de Vita Moses. Book 2, Chapter 21. By Loeb Classical Library, Harvard University Press, 1932. The candlestick he placed at the south, figuring thereby the movements of the luminaries above. For the sun and the moon and the others run their courses in the south far away from the north. And therefore 6 branches, 3 on each side, issue from the central candlestick, bringing up the number to 7. And on all these are set 7 lamps and candle-bearers, symbols of what the men of science call planets. For the sun, like the candlestick, has the 4th place in the middle of the 6 and gives light to the 3 above and the 3 below it, so tuning to harmony an instrument of music truly divine.
The Seven Planets in Philo's Works, 2a, who is the heir of divine things, cause rerum divinarum heres, Chapter 45, Sections 221 to 225. Loeb Classical Library, Harvard University Press, 1932. The holy candlestick and the 7 candlebearers on it are a copy of the march of the choir of the 7 planets. How so? Perhaps we shall be asked, because we shall reply, each of the planets is a light bringer as the candlebearers are, for they are supremely bright and transmit the great luster of their rays to the earth, especially the central among the 7, the sun. I call it central, not merely because it holds the central position, which some give as the reason, but because apart from this it has the right to be served and attended by its squires on either side, in virtue of its dignity and magnitude and the benefits which it provides for all that are on the earth.
The 7 planets in Philo's works, 2b. Who is the heir of divine things, cause rerum divinarum heres, Chapter 45, sections 221 to 225. Loeb Classical Library, Harvard University Press, 1932. Now the order of the planets is a matter of which men have no sure apprehension. Indeed, is there any other celestial phenomenon which can be known with real certainty? And therefore they fall back on probabilities. But the best conjecture, in my opinion, is that of those who assign the middle place to the sun and hold that there are 3 above him and the same number below him. The 3 above are Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, and the 3 below are Mercury, Venus, and the moon, which borders on the lower region of air. So the master craftsman, wishing that we should possess a copy of the archetypal celestial sphere with its 7 lights, commanded this splendid work, the candlestick, to be wrought. Clement of Alexandria. Saint Clement of Alexandria was a Greek Christian theologian and apologist, born in 150 in Athens, Greece. He embraced Christianity at a young age and traveled to Egypt, Syria, Palestine, and Assyria to study under learned teachers. By 175, Clement had become a disciple of Pantaenus, the founder of the catechetical school of Alexandria, which was famous for educating future priests and theologians. In approximately 189, Clement took over the school's leadership, succeeding Pantaenus. As a scholar during a period when literacy among Christians was low, Clement managed to formulate persuasive logical arguments in support of Christianity, drawing from both scripture and philosophy. His most significant surviving works are the Protrepticos, Exhortation, the Pedagogos, Instructor, and the Stromatais, Miscellanies. The 7 planets in Clement's works. Clement of Alexandria, the Stromata, or Miscellanies, Book 5, Chapter 6. The lamp, too, was placed to the south of the altar of incense, and by it were shown the motions of the 7 planets that performed their revolutions towards the south. 3 branches rose on either side of the tamp, and lights on them. Since also the sun, like the lamp, set in the midst of all the planets, dispenses with a kind of divine music the light to those above and to those below. The golden lamp conveys another enigma as a symbol of Christ, not in respect of form alone, but in his casting light, at sundry times and divers manners, on those who believe on him in hope, and who see by means of the ministry of the firstborn. And they say that the 7 eyes of the Lord are the 7 spirits resting on the rod that springs from the root of Jesse.
Other sources. 1. Midrash Bamidbar Rabbah, Numbers Rabbah 15. 7. Townsend 1989 translation of Midrash Tanhuma. S. Buber recension, edited and supplemented by R. Francis Natav. These are the Menorah. 7 are the 7 lamps corresponding to the 7 planets that Ibid Khan roam around all the earth. These 7 likewise are dear to me. Thus you may not despise them. Targum Jonathan on Exodus 39 verse 38. John Wesley Etheridge, London, 1862. And the candelabrum, and its lamps, the lamps of order, which were ordained to correspond to the 7 stars, that rule in their prescribed places in the firmament by day and by night, and the oil for the lights.
Other sources, too. Midrash Tad Shi, Section 2, translated from Hebrew. The Holy One, blessed be He, created three things in His world, and all of them correspond one to another: the world, the human being, and the tabernacle. In the world, He created 7 firmaments. In the human being, He created 7 openings in the head: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and the mouth. And in the tabernacle, 7 lamps of the menorah. The 7 lamps of the menorah correspond to the 7 planets. And these are they: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. And just as the Holy One, blessed be He, established 7 planets in the firmament, so He commanded concerning the 7 lamps of the menorah, and all of them correspond one to another. And just as there is a chief among the planets, so there is a central lamp in the menorah.
Pomegranates. The candelabrum was made with its knops, and lilies, and pomegranates. Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3, Chapter 6, Section 7, William Whiston. Pomegranates have deep symbolism in Jewish tradition. They represent fertility, abundance, and the sweetness of life. In the context of the menorah, the inclusion of pomegranates reinforces the idea that the light emanating from the candelabrum brings forth blessings, sustenance, and vitality. The candelabrum's significance transcends its physical form. Josephus' addition of likening it to the planets, the sun, and the moon, along with the incorporation of pomegranates, enriches its symbolism, portraying it as a tree of life. By likening it to celestial luminaries, it draws a parallel between the menorah's illumination and the cosmic forces that govern our universe. Just as these celestial bodies provide light and guidance, the menorah symbolizes the ideal of universal spiritual enlightenment and divine presence. As the tree of life granted eternal life, the menorah represents spiritual nourishment, wisdom, and the eternal flame of faith. It serves as a conduit between the earthly and the divine, illuminating our path and reminding us of our connection to the cosmos and the source of all life.
The Tree of Life. Revelation 22, KJV. 1. And He shewed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. 3. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and His servants shall serve Him. 4. And they shall see His face, and His name shall be in their foreheads. 5. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign for ever and ever.
And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Revelation 21 verse 4, KJV. With these words, we part for now. May God bless you and your loved ones. Mr. Paulo L. A. Franca.